Well, let's return to the breaking news today that the Israeli cabinet has agreed to a hostage deal with Hamas. 50 Israeli hostages will be released during a 4-day ceasefire in exchange for 150 Palestinian women and youth prisoners. Joining me now to discuss is Australia's former ambassador to Israel, Dave Sharma. Welcome to the program again, Dave. What is your reaction to this deal that we've been speaking about on the show tonight? That's obviously good for families, but the IDF has expressed concern that it would give Hamas time to regroup.
Well, look, it's very welcome news for the families. I mean, we're talking here about 30 children, 12 mothers, a number of women, some children as young as 10 months old who've been seized here. And bear in mind, they were kidnapped and taken hostage, a clear war crime, and they've now been held for 46 days. So it's a tremendous relief for them and their families. Israel has obviously agreed to release women and some teenagers from Israeli jails, Palestinians, in exchange for that, and there will be a cessation of hostilities for the period it takes to transfer those over. Now, my understanding is all the Israeli security agencies, including the Israeli Defence Forces, whilst they recognise that this is going to suspend their operations for a number of days, thinks this is an important goal and they support it as well. So what I think we're likely to see is a cessation of hostilities, but I don't think this conflict is anywhere near over yet.
Look, many people are asking whether it's fair that it's 150 criminals in return for 50 innocent women and children, 1 to 3. Why is this?
Look, it's not fair. I mean, let's just start at the beginning. It was not fair or just or right or in accordance with any sort of international law for Hamas to go over the border into Israel to murder over 1,400 Israeli civilians in some of the most bloody and barbarous ways imaginable, and then take 240 people hostage. I mean, each of those is in itself a war crime. But that said, Israel is dealing with the reality that it's got people who are held captive and it wants to get home. And when you're faced with those sorts of dilemmas, you have to do what you've got to do as a state. And I'd point out in the past, Israel has done prisoner releases with Hamas. In 2011, they exchanged over 1,000 prisoners for a single Israeli soldier, Gilad Shalit. And amongst those released, incidentally, was Yahya Sinwar, who's the military commander of Hamas and was one of the orchestrators of this October 7th terrorist attacks. These are the sorts of dilemmas that Israel is facing dealing with a terrorist group like Hamas.
I mean, the fact that this emergency cabinet meeting, the Israeli cabinet went for 7 hours last night, finished very late into the night. But the fact that it went for 7 hours, they didn't just reach this deal quickly, they didn't agree to it quickly. That indicates there were a lot of issues like the one you just raised that they had to work through, and giving Hamas a 4-day pause, given Hamas was pleading for this deal, it clearly shows what a desperate position the terror group is in and how Israel has been so successful so far in its operation.
Well, look, I would say this. The only reason the hostages are being released is because of the military pressure that has been put on Hamas by the Israeli Defence Forces operating within Gaza, and the global diplomatic pressure, the shared global outrage at the continued holding of hostages. But for those two things, and but for the military pressure the IDF has applied, Hamas would have no interest in releasing these hostages. So it does show you that, sometimes you have to do war and diplomacy at the same time, and that's what Israel is having to do in this instance.